What's going on, guys? Back at you guys with another presentation. In this presentation, guys, we're going to talk about why I'm no longer a Christian. I feel this would be a good topic. Now, I know I've said God didn't in the past. I do believe God wants some people to go through certain challenges in life. But this is what I will say to you guys. Don't think that I don't believe in the Most High. I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Don't get it wrong. I believe in the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. I'm here to tell you, I just feel so liberated because I just be fantasizing about these women. And I think I fantasize about a woman giving me some sloppy dome on a yacht, a woman feeding me some spumoni, rubbing my head, playing with my toes, a woman making me blast off, bust all over the place. I just been having a lot of fantasies about women lately. Sex is the main reason why I want to be married. But before I go off on a tangent, I want to talk about why I'm no longer a Christian. I'm no longer a Christian because I realize that a lot of so called church people don't practice what they preach. A lot of these preachers, a lot of people that go to church are some of the biggest frauds. They don't really stand on biblical principles. A lot of these church folks. That's why I backed away from church. Creflo Dollar, he was always preaching about money. He was always preaching about prosperity, Rolexes, Bentleys, living lavish, living in big mansions, riding in $65 million jets. That's what Creflo Dollar was always preaching about. And I grew up going to Creflo Dollar. I was raised under the teachings of Creflo and Tafiel Dollar. So I know all about Christianity. And when I was a Christian, I was feeling guilty about things that I should have never been feeling guilty about. I was feeling guilty about looking at women in sexual ways. I was feeling guilty about listening to certain music. When I was going to church and when I was indoctrinated with Christianity, it just had me feeling guilty about things that I really shouldn't feel guilty about. As a man, you shouldn't feel guilty about looking at a woman in a sexual light. As a man, you're supposed to lust. As a man, you're supposed to be deviant. As a man, you're supposed to be freak nasty. That's just in a man's nature. And like I always say, guys, men are less shallow than women. A man will freak anything because men are like dogs anyway. And when I was a Christian and when I was going to church, it had me feeling guilty about things that I should have never been feeling guilty about. As a man, you're not supposed to feel guilty about looking at a woman in a sexual light. You're supposed to look at a woman in a sexual light. As a man, you're supposed to desire women. That's natural. As a man, it's nothing wrong with watching X rated material. You got married men who look at X rated material. So it's nothing to feel guilty about. And, the church and Christianity, it has you feeling guilty and, it has you full of fear, because in Christianity, one of the main things is they try to put this fear of hell in you. I do believe in the afterlife, but I notice in Christianity, they try to put this fear of hell in you and they try to make you scared of the devil. It's really about making you scared of Satan, you know? And this is that's another reason to why I'm no longer Christian, because in Christianity it's like they trying to make you feel guilt and fear, and guilt and fear are two bad qualities to have. You should not be walking around full of guilt and fear. I don't know how many of you were raised Christian, but in the African American community, most of us are raised Christian. And in Christianity, it instills a lot of fear and guilt in you. And that within itself can kill your confidence as a man, and kill your self image too. Being scared of Satan. Um, Christianity, a lot of these preachers, a lot of these church people, they don't really practice what they preach. A lot of them don't. And when you see how fake and how phony a lot of these so-called Christians are, it'll make you just back away from Christianity altogether. That's why I stopped going to World Changes. How many of you guys, if you went to Creflo Dollar's church before, leave your comments on this presentation. If you've been to Creflo before, because I went to Creflo Dollar ever since I was a kid, and I remember, going with my grandmother, going with my mother and aunt. Creflo Dollar would always have these finance conventions, and my aunt and my grandmother, they still go to Creflo. My mother stopped going, and you know that's why, these are the reasons to why I'm no longer Christian, guys. Because Christianity, it puts a lot of unnecessary fear in you, things that you shouldn't be fearful of, and it puts a lot of unnecessary guilt in you, things that you shouldn't be feeling guilty about, you know. And I had to realize that, I don't have to identify as a Christian to believe in the Most High. I believe in the Most High, but I'm not a Christian. I left that Christianity stuff alone because a lot of these church people, a lot of these pastors, they all about money anyway. And a lot of these preachers, they don't really practice what they preach. Church is a business. Just like Ringo TV Raw said, the church is a business. It's all about getting paid. That's what the church is all about. In these churches, they don't care about folks. They don't care if you starve to death. They wouldn't care if you were sleeping up under a bridge. A lot of these churches, they do not care about their members. It's a business. As long as the pastor is living large, wearing Canali suits and walking around with Salvatore Ferragamo dress shoes on, that's all it's about. These preachers, they do not care about their congregation. They do not. And I mean, that's just the truth. I'm pretty sure you guys probably feel some kind of way about the church as well, but these are the reasons why I'm no longer a Christian. And then a lot of the people that I thought were righteous in church, a lot of the people that I thought were righteous turned out to not be righteous. All the people, when I was going to church, the people that I thought that were good people, the people that I thought were good, they wasn't good people. A lot of them church folks, they were not good people. And that's what really made me back away. Once I started realizing that these church folks are not really good people, these preachers, they all about money, riding in Bentleys and riding in $1 million jets like Kenneth Copeland. Once I realized that, that's what made me back away from the church. That's what made me say, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to identify with Christianity anymore. I believe in God, but I'm not going to identify with this religion, because a lot of these people that go to church, they not even of God. That's what I had to realize. These people in these churches, they are not of the Most High. They're not. A lot of these pastors are not of the Most High. And once I started realizing that a lot of these church folks are not who they proclaim to be, that's a big reason to why I'm no longer Christian. Because I realized that it's all a game. These people not really who they say they are. And once you understand that, it'll make you get a different idea of Christianity. And that's one of the biggest reasons. That's one of the biggest reasons to why I'm no longer Christian anymore. Because I realize just how fake the church is. And I realized that a lot of these people that's in these churches are just putting on a facade. It's an act. That's all it is with these church folks. It is an act. That's all it is. These people are not who they really proclaim to be. And I'm glad that I'm no longer feeling guilty or feeling fearful about things that I shouldn't feel guilty or fearful about. As a man, if you shouldn't feel guilty or fearful of looking at a woman in a sexual light or looking at some X-rated material. As a man, that's in your nature to lust. It's in your nature to want to bust all over the place. So, things of that nature is nothing to feel guilty about. And ever since I backed away from Christianity, I'm no longer walking around fearful and feeling guilty about things that I shouldn't be feeling guilty or fearful about, you know? But you guys let me know what you think about Christianity. If you're no longer a Christian, leave your comments. I would love to know your feedback. I feel this is a great topic, and this is something that we can really discuss because you got a lot of people who've backed away from Christianity, and a lot of people have backed away from Christianity because they realize that a lot of these people in these churches are frauds. A lot of these preachers are frauds. Creflo Dollar, he was always preaching about money and Rolex watches and, wearing expensive suits and riding in expensive jets. I mean, what does that really have to do with the Most High when you really think about it? See, stuff like that that's what makes people back away from these churches. You know, when you see that these people are really frauds in these churches. But you guys leave your comments. We're gonna go on and get up out of here. Make sure you rate, comment, subscribe, support the content. Have a good one. Happy Thursday.